In every school, there's a new kid whose story spreads before they ever say a word. This time, his name is Jonas. He arrived on a gray, drizzling morning, his hair uncombed, his face pale as chalk, and his eyes darting as if expecting danger at every turn. But what everyone noticed first, and what no one could ignore, was the backpack. So battered it looked ancient, so swollen and heavy it seemed to weigh down his entire frame. Its straps dug deep into his shoulders, its seams strained with every step, and when he set it down, the sound was startling. A deep, resonant thud that made the floor tremble, and the desks shudder in their places. No one ever saw Jonas open the backpack. He kept it close, always within arm's reach, and never left it unattended, not even for a bathroom break. In the quiet hum of the classroom, sometimes one could hear the leather groaning as if it, too, was exhausted from the burden. Jonas never met anyone's gaze for long, and when asked about the bag, he'd only shake his head and mumble, "Don't worry about it." But in a room full of curious minds, mysteries don't last long. Whispers sprang up as quickly as dandelions after rain, each theory stranger than the last. Some said Jonas was hiding rocks, huge, heavy stones he collected for some secret reason. Others joked in the kind of way that's only half a joke, that he was carrying the corpse of a bird, or maybe a small animal, and that was why he never let anyone near. A few, those who liked to spin darker tales, claimed he was a spy, smuggling forbidden documents, or that the bag held a portal to another world. But among them all, Eli, the class president, careful observer, and unofficial protector of the room's fragile order, watched Jonas with growing unease. Eli noticed patterns others missed. Every time Jonas sat near someone, strange things happened. The kid who lent Jonas a pencil came down with a fever by lunch. The girl who bumped into him accidentally was spotted yawning uncontrollably for days, her eyes ringed with sleeplessness. It was subtle, easy to dismiss, but Eli's sense for trouble was sharp. One afternoon, as the class worked quietly on their assignments, Eli sat just 2 desks away from Jonas. The air felt colder near him, the way it does in old houses or empty theaters. Eli glanced over and watched as Jonas, hunched over his work, began to mutter softly, not to himself, but to the backpack. No one else seemed to notice, but Eli saw Jonas's lips moving, heard a faint, guttural whisper. For a second, it almost sounded like the bag was whispering back. A few days later, something else caught Eli's attention. During a group project, Jonas set his backpack on the table and reached for his notebook. As he did, the backpack shifted, inching slightly on its own, like a living thing adjusting itself for comfort. Eli blinked, certain it was a trick of the light or a draft from the open window. But then it happened again. A slow, deliberate slide, as if the bag was restless, impatient to be somewhere else. By now, Eli's curiosity was tangled with concern. What could possibly be inside that bag? Why did Jonas guard it so carefully? And why did strange things happen to anyone who came too close? Eli decided to find out, certain that whatever was hidden inside would explain everything. The chance came one day after class, when Jonas was called into the hallway by a teacher. He hesitated, glancing between the door and the backpack. For the first time, he left it behind, perched precariously at the edge of his desk. The room was empty, the clock ticking loudly in the hush. Eli's heart hammered as he approached the bag. The leather was cold, almost clammy, and the zipper was stuck, resisting his first, second, and third attempts. But finally, himself. Eli, bound and terrified, his mouth open in a silent scream, his eyes wide with panic. The image flickered, then grew clearer, the soundless terror almost palpable. Eli jerked back, stumbling away from the desk, the backpack still open, its darkness spreading low. Eli walked home beneath the heavy clouds of dusk, but it wasn't the weight of the sky that pressed his shoulders down. Every step felt unfamiliar, as if the world had shifted in the time it took to cross the schoolyard. His mind spun with the echo of Jonas's last words, words that seemed to cling to his skin, refusing to let go. When Eli finally reached his front door, he paused, fingers trembling on the handle, and drew a shaky breath before stepping inside. His room was just as he had left it that morning. Neatly made bed, stacks of books, the faint hum of the old desk lamp. But there, slumped against his desk, was Jonas's backpack. Eli froze. He hadn't brought it here. He remembered clearly. Jonas had always kept it with him, clutched tight, never out of arm's reach. He'd seen Jonas leave school yesterday, that bag a familiar shadow on his back. And yet now, here it was, frayed and battered, as if it had always belonged. In Eli's room, he approached it slowly, a chill running down his spine. The bag seemed heavier than it looked, slumping into itself with a kind of exhausted gravity. He reached out, fingertips brushing the rough canvas, and a strange sense of unease washed over him. It was as if the backpack had a presence, an invisible force radiating from within, making the air thick and difficult to breathe. He turned away, determined to ignore it, but sleep would not come that night. Eli tossed and turned, eyes wide open in the darkness. Shadows flickered across the ceiling, and the silence of the house pressed in on him from all sides. In the bathroom mirror, he hardly recognized himself. His hair was mussed, his eyes rimmed with fatigue. But it was more than that. He wore a uniform, but it wasn't his own. The tie, the blazer, they belonged to Jonas. He reached out, running a hand down the fabric, and a shudder ran through him. The next morning, his mother called from the kitchen. "Jonas, breakfast's ready." Her voice was light, casual, as if nothing had changed. Eli stumbled into the hallway, confusion pounding in his chest. At school, teachers greeted him with quick nods. "Early today, Jonas. Good to see you." Friends waved, their smiles easy and unbothered. But their eyes slid past him, as if searching for something they'd forgotten. No one called him Eli. The name vanished, replaced by another. He tried to speak, to correct them, but the words caught in his throat, dissolving before they could escape. All around him, the world continued as if on a script he hadn't rehearsed. He sat at Jonas's desk, his own seat now occupied by someone else, and the backpack was there, always there. When he tried to leave it behind, it reappeared beside him, heavier each time he touched it, the straps digging into his shoulders like iron bands. Days blurred together, the edges of reality softening as if seen through water. Eli's memories twisted and flickered, faces, places, moments, all shifting, all uncertain. He opened the backpack once, the zipper's teeth grinding against his nerves. Inside, there were no notebooks or pens, no lunchbox or crumpled assignments. Instead, a cold emptiness stared back at him. Time, fast and consuming, yet the bag felt impossibly heavy, as if it held the weight of the world. It took time, fragments of conversations, flashes of memory, whispers in empty hallways. But eventually, Eli understood. The backpack didn't carry objects. It carried something far more intangible, yet infinitely denser. It carried guilt, regrets, secrets, mistakes, each one tucked away unseen but ever present, pressing down with relentless force. Jonas had always been quiet, always a little distant. Now Eli saw why. Jonas had been the one who carried these burdens for others, taking their guilt upon himself so they could move on, lighter and untroubled. No one had noticed, or perhaps no one wanted to notice. They were happy to let Jonas bear the unseen load, grateful for the freedom it bought them. But Eli had made a mistake. He had looked inside the backpack. He had seen the emptiness, the darkness, and in that moment, the burden had shifted. It was his to carry now. The world remembered Jonas, but only through Eli. The name, the face, the memories, all tangled together, indistinguishable. As the days passed, Eli faded. His voice grew softer, his presence less certain. People saw him but didn't see him, like a shadow at the edge of their vision. He moved through the halls like a ghost, the backpack growing heavier with each passing hour. Sleep eluded him, food lost its taste. Even the colors of the world seemed to drain away, leaving everything tinged with gray. One morning, Eli didn't wake up. His bed was empty, the covers undisturbed. No one saw him leave. No one heard his steps. It was as if he had never existed at all. A week later, a new student appeared at school. No one remembered enrolling him, but he seemed to fit in, slipping seamlessly into the rhythm of the day. He said little, kept it to himself, but those who sat near him noticed his desk bowdy under the weight of a battered, ragged backpack, one so heavy it warped the wood. Sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, he would glance at the bag with a haunted expression. Teachers offered to help, friends reached out, but he always shook his head. "I can carry it for you, just don't look inside," he whispered once, voice barely more than a breath, and the world moved on. The backpack remained, passed from one to another, always waiting for the next pair of unwitting shoulders. Some burdens, it seemed, were too heavy to bear alone. Some guilt as mass, a weight that lingers long after memories fade, shaping lives in ways no one can see, but everyone can feel. As the days slipped by, the story of Eli, of Jonas, of all those who had carried the backpack before, dissolved into the background noise of everyday life. But the lesson remained, quiet and insistent. We all carry things unseen, regrets, mistakes, secrets we wish we could forget. Sometimes we hand them off without meaning to, grateful for the relief, never thinking of the cost. But there are those who see the weight in others' eyes, who take it on themselves so that the rest of us can walk a little lighter. And every so often, if you look closely, you might catch a glimpse, a bowed back, a haunted gaze, a backpack that seems too heavy for one person to carry. Remember then to tread gently, offer kindness, listen, and above all, resist the urge to look where you are not meant to look. Some truths are too heavy to bear. Some guilt has mass,